Hi everyone. Meet Darina. She's a designer at Shaper.
Hello, everyone, and this is Damini. She is a developer here in Shaper.
And today we will talk about
Design thinking and dev shipping.
and how the lines are blurring between vision and execution. So I have a question, Darina. What is the future of web design tools? For example, I see a lot of new tools emerging every day like Magic Path, Webflow, Lovable. Have you tried using any of these tools?
Yes, I have. I have tried Lovable and Figma Made, Figma Sites. These are, I think, one of the some of the new ones. But I wonder, I can't help but think, where does that leave teams? Because so many of these new emerging tools are for individuals and for one-man armies. But what about teams? So that's what I wanted to ask you. What do you think of the current workflow in teams?
So it's basically like PM decides what to create, and designers design the most exceptional user interfaces and experiences, and devs execute the vision, right?
Yeah.
But this process is not straightforward. It requires a lot of iterations and back and forth communication between the team members.
Yes.
And I think between these processes, a lot of time, effort, and information is lost.
Yes, I feel the same. Like in the current workflow, the teams that we use are separate. So the product team, they'll be researching their own research, and then they'll tell the designers and developers. Designers will do their own research in and iterate in Figma maybe, and the developers, they will execute it in their own dev environment and dev tools, right? So I feel like there is a miscommunication and gap, and it makes me wonder, like can this be reduced or
Makes sense. I mean, I hate handoffs.
yeah.
Handoff is a problem, right? The next problem is how and where existing tools fall short.
Hmm. I think for product teams, there is a gap in communication, and this gap is mostly created by the tools that we use every day.
Hmm.
Like for example, if I design something in Figma and you have to hand it off to a developer, the developer will recreate the UI again, and this creates a dissent between the teams, and there is no common language for both the teams.
Even I feel the same. Like, even in tools like Lovable, once you generate a mock-up, a design, and you're happy with it, after then what? I mean, it feels like a dead end. You can't hand it off to a dev without losing all of its context or make iterations over it or maybe uh, yeah, or make real-time changes as the requirements evolve, right?
Yes, I feel the same. As a designer, also, like after I've generated, say, brainstorming session in Lovable, what will I do with it? Like, I can't put it on Figma or, what is the next step after that?
Yeah. So I feel the most frustrating problem is the handoff problem. I wish there was some kind of a tool which speaks a common language for everyone, devs, designers, and PMs.
Yeah. And I think that should be possible today because, like, in the age of AI, they're saying that you don't need to learn coding. You can just prompt and get a code, or you don't even need to know, like, how to design things. You can just prompt and get a design, right? So I think in this today's age, it should be possible that PMs, designers, developers, they can like share a common language.
But aren't we too comfortable in our own tools? I mean, if there was a tool like this, I don't want to feel like an alien, as if I was being transported to some other universe. Getting me?
Yes, yes, I understand. What if I tell you that there is a tool
Hmm.
which helps like PM, designers, and developers collaborate in their own languages, but everyone can understand each other?
Super cool. That's why we are building Shaper to unify the power of design tools with production grade output of dev tools powered by AI.
Yes, you can shape products visually, collaboratively, and in real time.
Uh, so here's a quick demo.
Yeah, like I created this Swiggy website from scratch. There was no AI, no like it was like pure visual editing. And then I handed over to Damini, who made the functional changes.
Yeah, I want to add something here. The thing which you see in the middle, the artboard basically, is an iframe which is running a live Next.js application. So whatever changes Darina was making here was also getting reflected in the code. So it's a two-way sync. Whatever you make changes there, it will get reflected in the code. Also, we have a left panel, the code editor,
Yeah.
where a developer can also make a change.
Yes.
So everything is interconnected.
But I have a question here. Like, I'm a designer and I'm making the changes, and you're saying that the code will be reflected. So, doesn't it concern you as a developer? Like, what if I make a mistake? Then what?
So we have an option to connect your existing project to a GitHub repo, where whatever actions you perform on the artboard will automatically get committed to your repo. So a dev can surely come and review your code.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Nice. But like, what about critical changes? Say I'm designing something and I accidentally deleted the root and like my whole project is gone. Or we can see the code panel. What if I deleted a comma and now my project is broken? Then what?
Since we are maintaining a history, right? So we can easily roll back to any of your commit in time.
Yeah.
So if anything breaks in your project, you can easily roll back to a working stable checkpoint. So that option is there. Also, maybe ask AI to fix your code, right?
Oh,
AI is everywhere in our tool. Acha, I'm not a designer, right?
yeah.
So I'm not comfortable designing anything. So I'll simply ask AI to create something for me from scratch, and it will do all the heavy lifting required.
And also, as a designer, I don't have to manually do any prototyping. Like, I can add any interactions that I want, and I don't have to trouble my dev with like heavy animation requests and all that.
Yeah. So it basically works for both.
Yes.
So yeah.
And also for brainstorming, if I don't have to like create anything from like a blank canvas, if I have a creative block, then I can just ask my AI to like generate some ideas so that it gets my creative juices running.
Definitely. So these were some examples that we tried creating.
Yeah. So how is Shaper like different from all these other tools that you mentioned before, like say Lovable or Figma Make or Framer?
So on one side, you have got AI tools who are focused on prototyping, like Replit, Lovable, and Bolt. But I think they lack intuitive visual editing. They're good for PMs,
Yeah.
developers, but I don't think they're good for designers.
Yes. And on the other side, we have visual first tools like Framer, Figma, and Webflow. And it is very good for visual editing, but then they lack the production grade code. Okay, so technically, I want to ask you, how does our AI work in the back? Like, how does it know where to add my changes? Or say, if I'm asking to quickly edit a section, but I say create a new page. So will it generate a new page in the section itself, or will it actually understand that it has to
Okay.
make a new page?
So in Shaper, we have 3 generation modes basically. First one is the full project generation mode, then the page generation mode, and last one is quick edit mode. So full project generation mode is responsible for creating a backbone for your project. It will do everything to get you started. Based on the user's query, it will define the proper layout. It will create all the config files for you, like the Tailwind config file, next config file. It will create tokens for colors, typography, fonts. So it will do everything. It will also generate routes pages. Since it's Next.js application,
Yeah.
it will generate some routes, but not with actual content, with some prompt stubs, which will be used in other generation modes to generate the page,
Okay.
complete page.
And adding on to that, our AI also knows like which type of typography it is supposed to use for what type of websites. Say if you want a modern dashboard, it won't generate something which is supposed to be for an app. And it also knows what colors to use. If your website is supposed to be futuristic or modern, or is it an artistic website, it knows all that.
Correct. The second one is the page generation mode. It will generate the complete code for the page, taking from the stub that we created in the full project generation mode. It also takes some context with it. For example, it will take the README file and some other files in your project, and it will give you the whole complete page implementation. The last one is the quick edit. So basically, in the artboard, you can select anything and you can ask AI to make specific edits to it. For example, you can select a button, ask AI to change the color, maybe adjust the padding and all. So we have quick edit. But quick edit doesn't rewrite the whole file. Instead, it will only output minimal changes, which is required. It also takes some context with it. For example, the selected code and the surrounding context.
Interesting. So, adding on to that, like I wanted to ask that when I'm like prompting to Claude to generate some designs for me, and I say add a form for my website, it gives me like a lot of information, like information which I didn't even ask for. So, how does Shaper know, like which one is the actual code and which one is like other information which I didn't ask for?
So in the system prompt that we are sending with the AI request, we have defined a particular response format for the AI. For example, the AI should always output its thinking process inside a thinking tag. And in front end, we have created a parser which extracts only those tags, necessary tags, and it discards the rest of the response from the AI. So basically, we have got 4 tags: code project, quick edit, thinking, and refusal. And on the basis of these tags, we determine what actions we have to perform. For example, code project, we know the code will get from the code project tag.
Yeah.
So we need to update the file or maybe create a new file.
Yes.
That's how it works.
Okay. And adding to that, the refusal tag, we have added guardrails to prevent our AI from answering like unnecessary questions, and it'll only give answers for related to website or creating apps and stuff like that.
Correct. This is another video. So Darina tried creating Shaper's website inside Shaper.
Yes. So here I'm asking our Quick Edit AI to add a testimonial section for me.
Good.
And then it actually understood my whole design language and like it followed everything. So here I have a question for you. Like I did not give the AI any context about what is my design language or what type of testimonial section it has to create, but it still understood it and it generated the exact same design as my previous folds. So I wanted to ask, how did it do that?
Can we see the testimonial section? So this is the testimonial section.
Yes. And see, it used the same button which is being used in the other folds. So that was my question. Like, how did it do that?
Okay. So we have made our AI capable of reading, basically getting the context of your project, reading your files, your file structure, and getting the content of a file via tools and agents. So when a user, it analyzes the user's query, and on the basis of user's query, it determines like if there is any existing component in your project that it can reuse or maybe enhance
Okay.
to fit in. If there's no component compatible, it will generate a new one. But it always adheres to your design system. So it will strictly follow your design system of your project.
Okay. So that is it from us, guys. So we don't believe that AI is going to replace us. It is only here to enhance our workflow and help us in working faster. So if you want to be an early user, you can try it out. It's open for all. And
We would love to hear your feedback, and it's open for all for now.
yes,
Thank you so much.
thank you.